What's going on, Rachel?
What? Yeah. So why? So we were connected through Kim, Clark Kazmarek,
One of our cast members.
one of our other cast members,
Right.
and then another friend who's not involved with the show, Tui Pham.
Yes.
Which is so funny.
Yes,
Yeah.
Tui. Love her.
And so when you first heard and we first got connected and started talking about you coming in possibly to audition, what were you thinking?
I was excited. I was nervous. I was thinking, interesting. Omaha? The Rose Theater? Are they that brave? That was literally my thought.
That brave as in to do the diary, I'm just teasing you, but to do the Diary of Anne Frank or...
To... to do Diary of Anne Frank, that's a big show. It's a huge show, in a way, especially in a children's theater setting,
Agreed.
right? With the subject matter, with the play itself, how dramatic it is, and how sad and how dark it can be, right?
And I have to say, excuse me for interrupting, but I have to say, like, when I talk, like, because I'm from Washington, D.C., when I tell people that I'm going to direct the Diary of Anne Frank, people are like, oh, that's really exciting. Where are you doing it? And I say, in Omaha. They're like, great, what theater? And I tell them it's a children's theater. And everyone's like, wow, a children's theater is doing that play? And I say, yeah, it's a book. The Diary of a Young Girl is read by children. Probably not children, more like teens and young adults, but it's something young people can handle, like that content.
Yep.
So anyway, I interrupted, but so yes, the Rose is brave for doing this as a concept, but specifically approaching you about auditioning.
I was shocked in a way, really excited, because as an Asian performer, I would never dreamed of playing any character in this play at all. And I remember emailing Matt, the artistic director here. I'm like, hey, I'm interested in working at the Rose, this season. And he wrote back, which show would you want to do? I listed all the other shows except this one. I was like, no,
Thanks,
there's no way. There's no way I will be in Diary of Anne Frank, I'll be in Elves, anything else, not this one. And here I am.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I love the conversation that we had, which we've had in different contexts with other actors about that intersection of, because you're Chinese, and the intersection of your Chinese culture, in addition to all the other aspects of your culture, just to highlight that aspect. And I mean, not even just Chinese, like that's your family's culture, but you were born in Hong Kong.
Hong Kong, yeah.
And the intersection of that with the Jewish culture, and specifically with German Jewish and Dutch Jewish, which is what the Frank family was. And how intersecting with those two and with an eye towards our audience in Omaha, like how that can all really like add and like expand what the possibilities are for the production.
Right.
Yeah.
When Matt offered me Mr. Frank, I was like, ooh, Mr. Frank, okay. Oh, like that, literally like that.
Yeah.
And nervous, scared, I don't know what I can offer. I know I can be an actor in the show, right?
A really good actor. I know I can be a really good actor in that show.
And the great thing about this production is the first week, the first hour of every single rehearsal, you or the production brought in, should I say Judaism expert?
Yeah, a Jewish expert?
Yeah,
sure.
a Jewish expert from the community, from, from the local...
Like the Institute for Holocaust Education and the Jewish Federation.
Right. So, we have like a crash course of Jewish, Judaism, right? And the things that I've learned from all those hours was the similarity of my family, of my
Oh my
practice,
gosh.
of tradition,
Yeah.
of eating food, of celebrating family and each other. It's mind-boggling how
Yeah.
intertwined, like
Yeah.
that
Oh,
was
the calendars.
the calendars, yes,
Yeah.
the lunar Chinese calendar, and the Jewish calendar,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that was the one thing. You remember we talked about it on the phone.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to offend anyone.
Totally.
I don't want to be like. One thing I was like, am I Jewish enough? But I'm not Jewish. We had this whole conversation about like how to be Jewish. And I'm like offensive, but yet I'm
No.
but it's a legit concern as a performer. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
be like I don't want to offend anyone in any way, shape or form, right? And I was so pleased the way that you answered the question and kind of reassuring that, you know, you will have lessons, you will have talks so that you won't feel so foreign
Yeah.
about this whole Jewish
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Well, and I love that I can see all the like in rehearsal last night, like I really see Mr. Frank. I mean, the sort of a couple of the scenes that we were working, like I see Mr. Frank coming, this like sort of somewhat strict and like inline, authoritative figure, and some of the stuff that we've talked about in terms of family structures in China and the way family comes over and interacts with American culture, and like it's just like I you know, I'm not saying you're at all reproducing any like images or expectations, but like I see that coming out, and it's just who the character needs to be and who
Correct.
Mr. Frank needs to be in those moments taking control.
Correct. Even though I'm not Jewish, I'm not Jewish at all, but the similarity of even just being, and I'm not a father either, but being able to see my father,
Yeah.
see my mother,
Yeah.
see my uncles and all my relatives, how they behave in bad situation or good situation, and draw that and have my personality and my own upbringing put into this show. It means a lot. It is one of the most fulfilling like show that I've done so far, that I don't know how to articulate it, because on the page, on the book, it's like, what? But in the rehearsal room, and hopefully the end, product will reflect the warmth, the love, the camaraderie, is that a word?
Camaraderie?
Yeah, of the whole cast, of all different people, and yet telling a story that is so universal.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Highly specific, but yet has all this universal.
Yeah, exactly. Was it difficult for you to accept this project? Were you nervous about it? And what were you nervous about? This is what I'm interested in.
What I was nervous about?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Is that too like, ding, answer that?
Yeah, no, and I don't mind. I mean, I think, so you know this, like I make a lot of original work. So I'm really accustomed to directing and leading group processes, but I haven't directed like a play that somebody else wrote in a really long time. I've spent a lot of time directing plays that I've been a part of creating, or either intimately or like passive, like from a distance, and then come in and direct, or they end up being adaptations that I'm of plays that I've been involved with. So at big scale theaters and small scale theaters, in terms of budget size. So I think, honestly, this is like the power of how other people can get inside your head. Is a few people have intimated that they didn't know if I could direct just a play,
right.
and which sounds ridiculous. And so I kind of started believing that myself, that like I didn't know if, like, which it's, like, oh, maybe I've spent so much time making plays that I didn't know if I could direct a play on the page.
But you're doing a fabulous job.
Thank you.
My goodness.
Well, we'll see. So I think if there was one thing I was worried if I was really nervous, is that I was like, wow, have I moved so far in one direction that I can't move back and forth? I think that's very silly. But I think most of the things that we become afraid of in life are just things that we don't know about.
Right.
And I'm definitely, when I was a young kid, I was definitely that, like, I'm afraid of what's under my bed. And you just need to look under your bed. Like, that's the way you know that there's nothing to be afraid of.
Yep.
So I was definitely afraid of that. I was also afraid, I was really excited about this idea of, like, this sort of developing principle of my work, that's this cultural intersection, the expansion of the play, written by white people about, that involves cast members from lots of different racial and ethnic backgrounds, and how do we lift that up to bring it into a contemporary context. So I was really excited about that, but I want to make sure I'm doing that with great respect to all the actors, and not inadvertently forcing them into playing stereotypes of themselves, and that they don't know as well, because sometimes we don't know. So I think that's something I was nervous about as well. And I think the third thing is we've created this really strong set design, which is highly contained, and many productions of Anne Frank have a very expansive set design. So you're able to see the multiple layers of the annex, because we always think about Anne Frank being in like one room, right? And all 8 of these folks were in one room, but they actually had, for all intents and purposes, a fair amount of space.
Right. That was one thing that I was surprised, like. Surprised about the set.
Oh, that it wasn't.
I was like, oh wow, it's not literally like, ants and the Van Don and then Peter. I was like, but I love it.
But we're in one room. And for The Rose, which has these beautiful, like, ability over its productions to have these beautiful expansive sets and moving scenery, like, we're all over here, all stage left, and nothing moves. And most of you, once you get on the set, don't leave. So, like, that's a scary choice that I also haven't done in a long time. So,
I'm excited about it.
I'm excited too, and I think what we're afraid of is also, like, great possibility can come from that. So I'm looking under my bed nightly. No monsters. No monsters. What do we think? So what do we think? What are we hoping that folks, when they come see the show, what will they leave talking about?
I hope that they will talk. That's the whole goal. That's the whole goal. If they will talk about it, about the show, about the story, about the diary, about the production, about the casting, about all the why. Like, not the why, but like all the why.
I hope that they only talk about you.
Horrible. But like, why is there an Asian person playing Mr. Frank, right? Why the story is it feels so similar right now in this climate. Why history shouldn't repeat, itself. Like, all the question that needs to, why this play right now,
Yeah, I mean, I love this, that what you were saying about the history, because I think there's, for me, I'm always sitting and thinking about how we often are taught history, at least when I was taught history and what I hear from people, in a way that thinks, like, history is sort of like this thing that happened, right? And it's dead. And so important in Holocaust education and in history in general about like how are we continuing to revisit and learn lessons from the past that we can carry forward. And we seem to be growing and learn, like as a country, like growing and learning about ourselves and who we want to be in the next 100 years, 200 years.
Absolutely right.
And in some ways, I feel like this is an invitation, like we're inviting people to have that conversation through this play about something that happened 75, 80 years ago.
And that's why I love this production so much, is in a way that not only, because I mean, everybody's impression of, history is boring. I don't want to talk about...
Except Riddell, who's playing Mr. Dussel, who loves history.
Right.
So let's just...
But with this cast, with this production, I really hope that it will spark conversation that not only talk about the production itself, but also talk about the history. Talk about Anne Frank, the diary of Anne Frank. And instead of being a wash away, it's the same old production again. So that's why I'm very excited about.
Yeah, totally.
So history is not boring.
Yeah. So you know what I've noticed? So something I've noticed about our production is that two things. One, there's a lot of joy.
Oh my God. So much joy. It's unreal.
And I don't mean just us being goofy in the rehearsal room, but I mean like there's so much lifting of laughter and loving and
the importance of finding those moments in a horrible time.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing when I'm in rehearsal doing, all the work, I'm like, oh, this is heavy. But if I don't try to, love my daughters and try to lighten it up in a way, I don't know how I can survive, even as myself.
Yeah. So like simple pleasures and the joy and the love and family and all of, so like that's the one thing. The other thing is like we're lifting up like all of those lines, all of that that sense of empowerment and that sense of action and possibility. I mean, and I feel like everyone, there's going to come a time where everyone in the Omaha area is going to know that like one of my favorite lines and the reason that I accepted this job is for this line Margot says, which is just because someone is young doesn't mean they don't have anything to say. And like, I was like, once I got to that line, I was like, well, this is obviously why I'm going to direct this play here at the Rose.
Exactly. At the Rose, in a children's theater setting. I mean, like...
Because that's, for me, in addition to everything that's important about the history, about consideration of where we are now, the empowerment of youth to actually like examine their own values, what's important to them, and then act to whether it's to be an upstander, to be an ally, to be an activist, to be an accomplice, like all of those steps forward to say this is where I want to see change in my world, and I'm going to step towards that change.
Right.
I and we collectively can make a difference.
Right.
Yeah.
Like right now, I don't know why I'm sure I know why it feels so resonant right now at the, with all the activism, and it's true that the youth are the future.
Yes.
If we don't, if they don't know how to speak up, if they don't know how to, or if they think that they have no place.
I think that's it, because they know. Because it's the belief that they don't know, but they do
exactly.
know.
Yep. And hopefully this play will let them feel empowered.
To
make the choices, to make the change, to be brave.
Yeah.